This is Newsfighters, where we fight the news so you don't have to. With Dylan Behan.
Yes, g'day everyone. Welcome to episode 97 of Newsfighters. I'm your host, Dylan Behan, the Jane Campion of Wacky Clips. And yes, welcome once again to Hollywood's Night of Nights, the Australian federal budget. Yes, what up? It's 2:15 in the morning. Here I am. It's my fourth federal budget I've covered on this stupid podcast. It's the fourth year in a row I've stayed up all night like an idiot making stupid jokes about bloody deficits for you, my niche audience of podcast listeners. So thank you for listening. What a weird few years it's been. Go back and listen to the old episodes. 2019, of course, was the Back in the Black budget. 2020 was the Cushion the Blow budget. 2021 was the Pandemic Recovery Spendathon. And well, 2022 is the Nobody Cares budget. I certainly don't. I wish I was in bed right now. I don't know why I'm doing this to myself. It was a stupid idea to begin with. In fact, you know who else wishes they were in bed is this disinterested focus group that Sky News assembled in Western Sydney last night.
Quick hands up. So for who does this budget make you more likely to vote? For the government? No hands. And for how many do you think the package announced tonight, cost of living, the pressures are going to be eased? Nobody. Okay. Seems pretty underwhelming so far, the response.
Yes, well, I know how they feel. It's official. We're all burned out and nobody cares. Even our current Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, seems to have given up and has lost count of how many of these stupid things he's done.
The budgets that I've been involved in, and this will be my 8th. I did 3 budgets as a Treasurer, and this will be my 4th as a Prime Minister.
No, you idiot, it's 7. Joe Hockey was the Treasurer in 2013 and 14 when you were Immigration Minister. You had nothing to do with it then. I haven't heard such an obvious stuff-up since Channel 9's news report on the Oscar Best Picture winner.
Budget would be the coming-of-age drama CODA, an acronym for Child of Deaf Parents.
Yes, CODA, C-O-D-A, Child of Deaf Parents. Anyways, and on to the budget itself. Well, for those of you who don't know the Australian federal budget, it's the closest thing we have in this country to a State of the Union or a speech from the throne, except instead of being delivered by our leader, it's delivered by the guy who wants to be the next leader. So anyways, last night Treasurer Josh Frydenberg tried to deliver a rousing finale to his speech and instead just sounded like an ad for your local pizza place.
3 years ago, we said to the Australian people that under the coalition, the economy would be stronger, and we delivered, and we delivered, and we delivered, and we delivered, and we delivered. We will deliver.
Yes, and just like a eager pizza delivery boy in reverse, he's coming to your house to give you cash.
The big spending election budget.
You've gone from pandemic spending to election spending.
Well, the federal government is banking on the promise of a cash splash to win over voters.
The central feature of the budget, a bundle of cost of living goodies.
The government will give cash handouts to low and middle income earners.
The $250 blatant cash bribe.
Now we're all just throwing cash around. It's mixed monetary theory all the way down.
Do you smell that, everyone? That's the budget cooking. All that money and cash.
Yes, after handing out billions and billions of dollars to people throughout the pandemic to do nothing, the coalition now seems addicted to it. Though now it claims it's to tackle this cost of living issues being brought about from inflation.
Budget is all about ensuring we deal with those immediate cost of living pressures, which Australians are feeling all around the country.
Tonight, the Morrison government announces a new, temporary, targeted and responsible cost of living package to ease these pressures.
Yes, and of course, you and I both know that nothing helps bring down the cost of living like giving billions and billions to obscure transport projects and the military.
Tonight's budget includes new commitments to road and rail projects. Brisbane to Sunshine Coast, faster rail. Sydney to Newcastle, faster rail. The Metronet project in Western Australia. The North-South Corridor in South Australia. Great Eastern Drive in Tasmania.
$10 billion for an East Coast submarine base, $4.3 billion to upgrade Perth's Henderson Naval Yard, $2.2 billion to commercialise research, $2 billion for a Moderna vaccine plant in Melbourne, a $500 million upgrade of NBN speeds in rural and regional areas.
There's even more money for the controversial commuter car parks program.
Oh, that vote winner. How much do you love getting all the kids together on a weekend and going down to the local commuter car park, which are all in Liberal-held seats and have never been built? Oh, I know I do. Yes, and sorry, what was that about, an NBN upgrade? We don't need an NBN upgrade. I mean, just ask Social Services Minister Anne Ruston, who zoomed into ABC News Breakfast on the weekend.
Look, and I think that is absolutely the core of the budget, is making sure.
I'm afraid we have some connection issues with Senator Anne Ruston there, I'm afraid.
Yeah, wow. Not looking good for Ukrainian President Zelensky addressing Parliament from Kiev on Wednesday. Hey, Zelensky, any chance you got your address on like a VHS tape you can send to us? Parliament House. It's probably more on our technology level here, if you know what I mean. Yes, but all that aside, it is cost of living that is the biggest issue facing families right now, according to Frydenberg.
I certainly understand that the number one topic around the kitchen tables of Australia right now is cost of living, and we've seen a barrel of oil go up by 50% since the start of this year.
Yeah, geez, I know all we talk about at my kitchen table is the cost of a barrel of oil. Why, when I tried to bring up the Will Smith, Chris Rock Oscar slap at my dinner table yesterday, my grandpa was like, "Shut up, boy, don't interrupt us when we're discussing the rising cost of a barrel of Brent crude." Yes, with rising fuel prices now at or around $2 a litre, it meant Frydenberg was determined to do something.
Fuel excise will be cut in half. For the next 6 months, Australians will save 22 cents a litre every time they fill up. The competition watchdog will monitor retailers to make sure that these savings are passed on in full.
Oh yes, you know, the same competition watchdog that couldn't do anything to bring down the cost of rapid tests during the shortage at the beginning of the year. You know, that competition watchdog. Oh, I'm sure they'll sink their teeth into those benevolent and gregarious multinational fuel companies if they fail to pass on the savings of petrol in a timely manner. Definitely. Interesting of the coalition to try and tackle fuel prices this budget. I mean, don't they remember what their previous treasurer, Joe Hockey, said? Where he said touching the fuel excise would only help rich people because only rich people drive.
The change to fuel excise, the people that actually pay the most are higher income people. The poorest people either don't have cars or actually don't drive very far in many cases.
Wow, hard to believe Joe Hockey's our shortest tenured treasurer of the last 25 years with his economic insights like that. I find that hard to believe. Okay, so motorists of fuel-based vehicles were one voting group the Treasurer targeted with this budget. Who else was there?
The federal government is looking to win over older Australians with its upcoming budget.
There will also be a boost for pensioners. Also looking to lock in the vote of older Australians ahead of the May election.
A one-off $250 cash handout for pensioners and low-income earners.
Tonight, I also announce a new one-off $250 cost of living payment delivered within weeks to 6 million Australians. Pensioners, carers, veterans.
Geez, you can tell things must be bad for the Liberals when they're looking to bribe their most stable and reliable voting base of old people. Geez, if their polling is showing that Grandma and Grandpa are looking over at Anthony Albanese or Clive Palmer to the point where Scrum has to wave some money in their face, then things must be dire. Another group that the government loves talking about supporting is our veterans, who got a shout out in the budget.
Our veterans have given so much in the service of our country. Our nation owes them eternal gratitude.
Yeah, I mean, this government loves veterans so much that Morrison even has this habit of acknowledging veterans before he gives big speeches at the exact same time as he's acknowledging Indigenous elders.
Can I begin, though, by acknowledging the Gadigal people? Can I acknowledge elders past and present, and indeed emerging? Can I also take the opportunity to acknowledge any serving men and women in the Australian Defence Force that are here this evening, as well as any veterans who are here tonight, and simply say on behalf of a very grateful nation, thank you for your service. Can we acknowledge together the Ngunnawal people to elders, past, present and emerging. Can I also acknowledge, as is my habit, to acknowledge anyone here who is serving in our Defence Forces and certainly those who are veterans, and simply say on behalf of a very grateful nation, thank you for your service.
Yes, that's right. Scott Morrison acknowledges the people whose land we've seized and the people we send overseas to seize land. So you'd think with all this showcasing of veterans from this government, they would actually prioritise them in the budget, right? Wrong. Well, until the Veteran Affairs Minister threatened to quit anyway.
Yesterday, the Veterans Affairs Minister, Nationals MP Andrew Gee, revealed that he had threatened to quit Cabinet if he did not get an extra $96 million to deal with veterans' claims.
Accusing the Prime Minister and the Nationals leader of refusing to stump up much-needed millions for his department. Yep. The Nationals MP says there are 60,000 outstanding applications for compensation lodged by Australian defence veterans.
This is simply not good enough. In fact, it is a national disgrace.
Minutes after he called his boss to flag he was quitting the front bench in disgust, the money materialised.
Look, it may not turn out to be the best career move.
Yeah, well, you're probably about to lose your job in about 2 months anyway, so what do you got to lose? Okay, so moving on from veterans and old people, what was in the budget for young people?
The federal government is committing $52.3 million of funding for Lifeline over the next 4 years from July.
Scott Morrison hopes the upcoming budget will also throw his government a lifeline.
What happened during the pandemic was that despite this greater need, we did not see the level of suicide in the country rise. We actually saw it fall.
Morrison's actually right there, but do you know what did more than anything to lower the youth suicide rate during the pandemic than anything else? Doubling welfare. The Liberals are like, look, eliminating poverty and homelessness is impossible. Except for that 6 months that we actually did it. But look, that's too hard. We're just going to give some more money to a phone line than actually care about actual human lives. Good luck, kids. You're on your own. Now, the government did find some free money for young workers in this budget, though. Kind of.
Tonight, I also announce a new one-off $420 cost of living tax offset for more than 10 million low and middle income earners.
Somehow I think when young people asked for $420 in the budget, they meant for something else, not a $420 tax offset. But wow, talk about millennials' Christmases all coming at once. Hey kids, here's a slightly lower tax debt than you're expecting because you're all now independent contractors who work for dodgy bosses who don't take any tax out or pay super or payroll tax. Enjoy. Don't be in slightly less debt all at once. So anyways, the government is giving away a lot of money, which means the national debt is going to rise to close to $1 trillion, which means it's time to start worrying, according to Sky News' Rita Panahi.
You know what? If the kids want to be concerned about something real, something that's actually going to impact them, if they actually had some real education happening in their classrooms, they would be looking at the national debt.
Yes, and what she's implying there is that school kids shouldn't be worried about climate change. They should be worried about the national debt. You know, I'm sure all those people in Lismore today are tying down their houses and laying sandbags to stop the rising national debt. Am I right? I'm sure people are worried about their houses burning down from a slight increase in the 10-year bond interest rate. Give me a break, Sky News. Australia is in a much better position than many other countries when it comes to national debt. And last I checked, in times of war, national disasters and pandemics, the priority should be saving lives, not austerity. But anyways, with all this huge spending happening just weeks out from the federal election, of course, everyone is accusing the coalition of just trying to buy votes.
Labor has accused the Morrison government of trying to buy votes before the election.
Will the federal budget buy your vote?
It's a budget about buying your vote. Simple as that.
And hilariously, when asked if this was true, Josh Frydenberg and Scott Morrison couldn't even deny it with a straight face. They were just like, yeah, so what if it is?
Is the strategy simply to buy votes?
This budget is about addressing the cost of living pressures being faced by Australian families.
This is just a fistful of dollars budget to try and buy votes at the next election.
Well, the measures to provide cost of living relief will be targeted.
Isn't it an irresponsible measure simply to buy votes ahead of the federal election?
You've got Australian families who will think it's a good idea to pay less at the Bowser.
So, of course, with this being such a blatant vote buy from the coalition, Labor couldn't wait to line up and support it.
And with many families struggling, Labor isn't ruling out support.
So we won't stand in the way, obviously, of cost of living relief for Australian families.
Labor isn't objecting to the spending, it's pledging to do more.
Mind you, Labor Treasurer Jim Chalmers used this budget as an opportunity to sharpen up his sick burns against the government, and they were pretty sick.
The cash payments are not about getting Australians through a difficult period, they're about getting the Morrison government through an election. This will be a panicked, desperate, tapped-out budget from a panicked and desperate and clapped-out government. This Prime Minister only holds a hose if it's spraying borrowed money on the eve of an election.
Wow, Jim Chalmers makes it look pretty easy there. Let's see how our Labor leader Anthony Albanese goes when he tries some of those sick burns.
But this is a government that has been in decade for almost an office. In office for almost a decade. And 2 minutes to the end of their term, they're asking for a fourth term based upon spraying money around. The only time that this government holds a hose is to spray money around before an election.
Wow, absolutely nailed it, Albo. That's the second car crash I've seen you been in lately. Anyways, Budget 2022. In conclusion...
Will the federal budget buy your vote?
Nobody. Okay.
Alrighty, everyone, that's an episode of Newsfighters. As usual with our late night budget episodes, no refunds. Newsfighters is written, produced and edited by me, Dylan Behan, for Sans Pants Radio. You can follow me on Twitter at Diabolical, and you can follow this show on Twitter and Instagram at NewsFightersPod. And a big thank you to our Patreons who've been supporting the show. If you want to support the show, we're at patreon.com/newsfighters, where you can get bonus extended episodes and monthly bonus episodes and all that kind of stuff. And we're also on Apple Podcasts if you want to subscribe on there and be a supporter. Or you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/newsfighters. That's it. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Keep fighting, and bye for now.
This is Newsfighters, where we fight the news so you don't have to.